before we ask who can tell me, I feel like it's such a teacher thing. Who could tell me this? Who could tell me that? Who has the answer to this? And just call one person and then move on to the next thing. When truly we can't tell who knows the answer, who does know the answer. But with these techniques, it allows students to truly get their thinking out. Hello to all my future educators out there. Welcome to Teaching with Tania. I am currently a student teacher, and I am student teaching in first grade. And if you click on this video, you are most likely an educator, whether you're teaching or wanting to know more about education. So welcome to my channel. This video is all about total participation techniques, whether you have heard of these terms before, or this is totally new to you. I just wanted to let you guys know about the amazing encounter I had. I had the pleasure of meeting Will and Pérsida Himmele, and they're actually really close to me, so I was so glad to get to meet them because I've been reading their books in my education classes. I have read their total participation technique, that's a mouthful, total participation technique edition 1, but they just came out with an edition 2 that has some tweaks in the book. And then also for student teaching with like my cohort and my other student teachers this semester, we are reading this book together called Why Are We Still Doing That? Positive Alternatives to Problematic Teaching Practices. And if you guys are looking for a good read, these books are pretty amazing. They get your brains turning whether you agree with them or not. At least makes you think about why you're doing what you're doing as a teacher. I feel like sometimes we get into a rut or we just do this because we're comfortable with it. But they talk about some really interesting topics that we've been going through with other student teachers, like, just give you guys a hint, round robin reading, formative assessment imposters, and a lot of other good topics that we just do as educators automatically. But this book and their other readings make me think about, like, what do I want to do when I get into the classroom and what I've been able to implement in my student teaching placement. So let's get right into the video so I can let you guys know some of my favorite total participation techniques and how I implement them in a classroom. So before I start talking about what are my favorite techniques, I first want to talk about why is it important to have everyone participate in the education process. I feel like sometimes as teachers, we can field a question. For example, what is 5 plus 5? You can either call on someone who has their hand up, and just from that assessment, because that student may know the answer, maybe it's another quieter or shy student in the background that may just not know the answer, or they've thought of it, they're afraid to raise their hand, or maybe they have the wrong answer in their head and they don't know the correct way to get it. But because that one student that we called on got it correctly, we just automatically sometimes make the assumption that everybody else in the class got the correct answer, and that is not the case. So these total participation techniques literally sound like what they are supposed to be meant for, by getting everybody to participate. Even little Susie or little Johnny in the back who never talks, who you have to like pull answers out of them just to even see what they're thinking. These techniques, what I like about them, have been able to bring like learning to life, which I love, and get everybody involved in the classroom community and in the learning process. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is as teachers, when we ask questions, not only just asking it to the whole class and looking for one response, but instead having the students whisper it to a friend. That way they have their wheels turning and their brains thinking about actually what the question is, or just instead of just having ask one question, oh, pray she doesn't call on me, I don't even have to think through what I'm being asked. Instead, they have to talk to their partner, whether it's an elbow partner or another partner that allows them to have whisper talks. They can whisper to their friend, think through the conversation, and add their input. Although I can't hear them, even though you can go around, walk around, and see like what they're whispering to see if they're on task or off task, and even differentiate for students about, okay, this conversation was really on point, or this conversation, this student may be not totally getting the concept. So it allows you to have informed assessments, which we should be doing all the time, to make sure we know where our students are at and if they're truly retaining and understanding the material that we are presenting to them. Along with that, in their total participation technique book, they have appointment agendas. And I truly love this one because sometimes in a classroom, like, students get used to sitting or talking to their neighbor. You get tired of talking to your neighbor. Like, I get tired of talking to my neighbor. So having these appointment agendas, I can show you guys a picture of it. So the appointment agendas look like that, and they have times where at the beginning of the school year or the quarter, they can go around and say, okay, make someone your 8 o'clock, make someone your 9 o'clock, make someone your 10 o'clock. Of course, you have to implement procedures with this, but because you're not always talking to your neighbor, and they don't know who you're going to call for what, I like this idea because students could, whenever you say at the drop of a dime, go ahead and look at their partner. Oh, that's who I partner up with. And it's the same for everybody because their 8 o'clock is their 8 o'clock, their 9 o'clock is their 9 o'clock. And of course, you switch people. You're not always talking about the same thing to the same person. And for example, I'm in math. Oh, we are asking questions about word problems. Let me go ahead and find my, for example, 5 p.m. partner. We're partners, boom, can talk about it. And it's like so simple and seamless once you get that procedure going. And I've also seen this not only for time, that may be for upper grade level, but for a lower grade level, you can talk about your milk and cookies partners or your chips and guacamole partner. I've seen other variations of this on TPT as well, but for this idea to be implemented in so many different ways, I love that this book, TPTs, they give you so many different TPTs that you can use whenever. Another strategy I liked that was in the book was the quick writes, because maybe for our older grade level, but quick writes could be like an interest ticket, extra ticket out the door, but it also gets students thinking. So a quick write is maybe we just learned about symbols in social studies for first grade. We just learned about the symbols. Okay, how do you think the symbols portray our country or something like that? You can ask any question on the board and students can go ahead and write a quick write. This could be quick write. This could be a fill in the blank template on the board where students can say, I think that symbols are blank. Write that on the board and have the students fill it in. Or you can have them say, what did you like the most about this lesson? Or what are you still curious about? Instead of asking every single individual person, instead you could just have them on an index card, on a post-it note, write it as they walk out the door to go to the next special or something, just to like close that lesson and get their thoughts out on paper. Or if it's math, you can have a few problems that you already taught or have already practiced and demonstrated and instructed them on, and then have them as well write the answer to those problems, put it on the index card, and then you can assess their thinking in that way, or even how they got the problems to see if they're on the right track or not. I also liked how the book gave different templates that you can use for a variety of different things. Another example would be this one, where you could just do like literally a text box and then have a circle around it, and it asks the students, what did they learn, how does this affect us, bringing it to real life and applying it to their world. For example, this is what it looks like. In the middle, you can write like hurricanes, tsunamis, or even the flag or the pledge. Whatever your students are learning about, put that in the middle and ask them, how does, for example, hurricanes affect us? What are the implications of it? What are the cause and effects? And students can just go around in a circle and write what they feel is best and how what they're learning portrays to their life. The last one I'll share with you, even though there are a bunch that I totally love, is a debate carousel. This is more, I would say, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, but you could tailor it to whatever your students are at, wherever they're at, whatever their needs are. You could differentiate, however. But it basically is a quadrant, and students can write in the first one, okay, what did you learn here, or what was your opinion here? And then in the next box, the next person, whatever they wrote here, has to add like a supporting argument to what the first person says. I like this because it, again, brings that out of them, and they have to talk talk to their partner or keep passing it around. However, if you break them in a group of 4s, group of 3s, however your classroom is set up, they have to talk to their partner. Whether they disagree or agree, they will get a chance to talk about that in the debate carousel, which I appreciate. When also meeting the Himmeles, I loved how they kept talking about having your students read it, write it, and say it. I just never really thought about making sure I get all those components, or at least 2 of those components in my lesson, whether it's spelling words, math facts, important historical events. Having students read it, write it, and say it, I feel like just cements the learning a lot more. Another thing that stuck out to me was how before we ask who can tell me, I feel like it's such a teacher thing. Who could tell me this? Who could tell me that? Who has the answer to this? And just call one person and then move on to the next thing. When truly we can't tell who knows the answer, who does know the answer. But with these techniques, it allows students to truly get their thinking out. And they also talked about pausing before you say that to either whisper to a friend, or you can air write it in the air or write it on the carpet. There's so many different ideas in this book. I highly encourage this book. Just good reads. I'll have them in the description box below if you want to check these books out. The last thing I want to encourage you with is with these techniques, it is important to have students have high cognitive and high participation. I feel like that's like the sweet spot of learning, where we can truly tell our students are grasping what we're saying. I understand some things may have to be high cognition and low participation just to get the material out, but slowly but surely need to be moving towards how many students, the most students can participate in this activity or give as much answers in this way. A lot of these things are low prep. You don't really need to have a lot of materials for these things. You could just, whatever your students are learning, you can implement what you're learning into like these activities, like whether it's a chalkboard, right? Like a word splash, or a one-word summary. They also, even for the younger kids, maybe just draw a picture about what they learned or what stuck out to them the most. There's so many different ideas out there, and this book goes through a plethora of them. I just want to encourage you all to use these in your classroom as much as you can, whenever you can. And it doesn't even have to be every lesson or every week, but just slowly but surely seeing your students and trying to get them as involved as possible. So that is all that I have for you guys in today's video. Don't forget to check out the links down below. And yeah, it was such a pleasure meeting the Himmeles, and they will actually be coming to my school later on this semester, so I can't wait to continue talking to them about the second book that I mentioned earlier. But yeah, that's it. I could talk all day about this, but I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.